Today's class is focusing on pelvic health. I'm Andrea Trank. I'll be your guide today. And as a woman in my 60s, I can tell you I've had my share of pelvic health issues. So the pelvic health issues can come up in a variety of different ways. They can be postmenopause, they can be from childbirth, they can also be from surgeries or injuries or just having a more sedentary lifestyle as we age. And the way the symptoms show up can also be very varied. For instance, you could have bladder control issues or even bowel issues, the ability to control that. There could also be pain during intercourse, and there could just be an uncomfortable feeling in this lower part of the body. All of these issues can show up in varying degrees, and yoga has been proven again and again to be very helpful in this. So during today's practice, I encourage you to really listen to your body, stay very connected to what you're feeling. If something is not feeling right, either do it less, so in other words, not as intense maybe as you're doing it, or don't do it at all. And so I look forward to sharing with you some of my wisdom as an aging yoga teacher and health coach. Let's start on our backs. So to be comfortable on your back, you might actually need maybe a blanket under your head. The other thing I'd love for you to have, if you have one, is a block. A block can be very helpful. If you don't have a block, you could have a pretty solid pillow as well. That might work as well. All right, so lay on your backs with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, not too far and not too close to your body. So you have to really check in and make this the right distance. Okay, so the first thing I'd like for you to do is just notice how your back feels on the ground. Notice if you can feel the left side more than the right side. Particularly draw your attention to your lower body from your waist to your hips. That's the region of your pelvis. And I want you to visualize your pelvis. Your pelvis is kind of the diaphragm upside down. So the diaphragm looks like a mushroom, and then the pelvis kind of looks like an upside down mushroom. So you've got bones and muscles supporting it from your back body all the way around your hips. And there's quite a few organs that your pelvis is holding up. It's like a big sling holding up a lot of organs. And as we age, some of these organs can drop down, causing something called prolapse. And that's one of the things that can cause us to have bladder control issues. So place your hands on your lower belly. And just for a minute or two, I'd like for you to breathe slowly in and out, possibly feeling your belly rise on the inhale, and then your belly fall down on the exhale. So the pelvis and the diaphragm are very connected, so your breathing is one of the simplest and most profound ways to improve pelvic health. Now, when I was younger, there was a big move to always do Kegels. And the Kegels we did after we gave birth to our children to tighten up our pelvis. What we've found over the years is while the Kegels can be helpful, sometimes the problem is too tight a pelvis. So what we're trying to find today is balance between suppleness and strength. So if you have too tight a pelvis, you could be getting pain as well. It could be painful urinating. If you have too loose a pelvis, then there's some control issues. So today's class, we're going to focus on some strengthening as well as some help for range of motion and flexibility. And you have to decide individually what you need more of. So while we're breathing, I want you to add some movement, some rocking movement. So on your inhale, rock forward a little bit as if you're a rocking chair. When you rock forward, you may create a slight space under your low back. You could put your fingers under there initially to see that's what you're doing. And then when you rock back on the exhale, you're shortening the space between the hips and the rib cage, and your belly might come in and your low back may touch the ground. So just breathe and rock as if you're on a rocking chair. This can start really slow and very subtle. And then as you warm up, you might want to go a little more deeply into this rock. But again, don't go into any pain. Just notice what you're feeling. Notice the difference between sides. I'm already noticing that my left side is not feeling as good as my right side. So I'm adding in a little bit of massage here. Pay attention to the signs your body is giving you. Rocking back and forth. So I'd like for you to now rock side to side. So rock a little bit more onto the left hip. The knees can stay pretty straight to the sky. Come back through the center. Rock a little bit more on the left hip. Come back through the center. Rock through the right hip. And rock through the left hip. So now we're going to rock as if we're hands of the clock. So when you rock away from you, you're at 6 o'clock. When you rock toward the right, you are at 9 o'clock. When you rock up, you're at 12 o'clock. When you rock to the left, you're at 3 o'clock. So maybe smooth it out as if your hands of the clock circling. Do that one more round, and then let's reverse. So now we're going 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Very subtle, small movements to draw awareness to this region of your body. Nice. For a second, lengthen the legs out and just check in. Check in with this part of the body. How is it feeling when it's laying on the ground? Breathe. Draw those legs back up. And now we're going to spread our arms out into a T. Palms are facing the ceiling. Allow the left leg to stay stationary and allow the right leg to roll out. Come back through neutral and then roll in. Come back through neutral. Do that 2 more times. Roll out through neutral. Roll in through neutral. So your pelvic health is very connected to your hip health as well. Let's try the other side. Roll out with the knee, opening up the hip, which is now moving around the pelvic area, and roll in. So again, notice when you're rolling in, you're probably feeling the psoas muscle, and the health of your pelvis is very connected to the health of your psoas. So now let's widen both feet away from each other and just roll the knees in and have the knees come back to neutral. Roll the knees in, come back to neutral. Third time, roll them in, come back to neutral. Now draw your feet slightly closer together. Roll the knees out, come back to neutral. Roll them out and back to neutral. And third time, roll them out and back to neutral. Now, if you have that block handy or nearby, grab the block and place it on the thinnest side, if you have a normal size block, and place it between your thighs. So initially, I just want you to push on the block and release it. So push your legs against the block and release. And then third time, push against the block and release. Now we'll slowly roll up into a bridge pose and roll down, squeezing the block between our legs, but don't squeeze it too much. So just go up very slowly, not too high, squeezing the block on an inhale. Lower down very slowly on an exhale. Squeeze the block at the bottom and roll your low back off the ground, pushing into the feet, and then come back to neutral. So draw the lower hips up and then move up toward the waist. On the inhale, squeeze the block at the top. Very slowly come down. Squeeze the block at the bottom. Draw your low back slightly off the ground. Squeeze the block away from you and come back to neutral. Let's do that one more time. Roll the back up as you squeeze the block. Squeeze it a little harder at the top. Roll slowly down. When you get to the bottom, squeeze the block. Now roll the hips away from you. Squeeze the block and come back to neutral. Release the block. Lengthen out your legs and check in with you. How is this part of your body feeling? Now, a great way to check in to see how it's feeling is just allow the legs to gently windshield wiper side to side. If you want to, you could have your head look the opposite direction of the knees as it's windshield wipering. Explore different width of your legs. For instance, you might want to widen the feet, and now try it. You should feel that a little more on the inside of the hip and the front of the pelvic area. Now you might want to take your arms overhead, palms facing the sky. As long as this doesn't bother your shoulders, draw your knees and your feet closer together and try it again with this position. And this might be felt a little more on the side body. Now before we leave our backs, draw your knees in towards your chest. Circle around in any comfortable way possible. Maybe you're going side to side. Maybe your legs are going away from each other, doing little figure eights. Maybe you want to draw your legs up to the sky, Some people like to do happy baby, and some people like to place their hands under their lower back to support their low back. And when you're ready, we'll roll over to our side and onto hands and knees. How are you feeling? It feels really good when your pelvis starts feeling good, doesn't it? Okay, so we're going to transition to standing. And downward facing dog, well, let's do a few cat-cows first, and then we'll transition to standing. So in the cat-cow, if you're working your pelvic region, I want you to focus in on this a lot. So when you inhale, feel this part of your back really engage. When you exhale, draw the lower belly in and release the top body so that you're relaxed at the top. Come back through neutral, inhaling and exhaling. Now let's circle the cat-cow a little bit. So when you inhale, circle off to the left. When you exhale, circle to the right, come back to child's pose. Inhaling and exhaling, reverse directions. Inhaling forward when you're circling left, exhaling, pull everything in when you come back to child's pose. Inhaling and exhaling. Slide back to child's pose for a couple of breaths. You will notice that I support under my ankles in child's pose. You find a child's pose that works well for you. Now, if you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis, you may not want to come all the way back into this child's pose. You might do a version which is called puppy pose, where your head's on the ground, but your spine is a little straighter, rather than rounded at the bottom. So find the pose that works for you and settle back into some pelvic breathing. Feel the pelvis expand on the inhale and contract on the exhale. Expand on the inhale, contract on the exhale. And expand on the inhale and contract on the exhale. All right, very gently, let's make our way through downward facing dog to a standing pose. I may need to adjust the camera. I'll check in a second. So do your downward facing dog. This is very good for prolapse. Breathing. And draw your feet towards your hands or hands toward feet. Come up halfway, get your head above the heart, lengthening your spine, bend the knees even more, and come up to standing. So in a standing pose, take that block, if you still have that block nearby, and place it between your thighs. So standing in Tadasana, which is mountain pose with a block between our legs, is a very effective pelvic stabilizer. So eyes closed, take right hand on the heart, left hand on the lower belly below the navel, and just breathe here. Connect with your pelvis. So when we are disconnected from our pelvis, it's often because we feel very unembodied or ungrounded. So just grounding yourself like this is very healing for the pelvis. Remove the block. Widen your feet. Take your left toes and point it toward the narrow end of your mat and your right toes pointed slightly in, and go in and out of a warrior two. So in gentle somatic yoga, we go into our pose and then we release it. We contract all the muscles and we release. Now when you go into your warrior two, I want you to imagine that you're pulling a tissue up from a tissue box, that you're drawing the muscles of your pelvis up and breathing. And do that again. In between the two sides, widen your feet, drop down, do a wide-legged forward fold, shift the hips around. Take a cleansing breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling open mouth, sigh. Inhaling through the nose, exhale, open mouth, sigh. Bend those knees, place the hands on the thighs or the arms. Breathe here, and then come all the way up to standing and set up for the other side. So turn the toes to the narrow end of your mat, the right toes, the left toes slightly turned in, opening up into a warrior two. Draw up the energy through your pelvis as if you're lifting a tissue through a tissue box. Release. Do it again. Inhale, drawing strength and energy up. Release. And third time. And release. So before we come down to a seated pose to do a mudra for pelvic health, I'd like for you to do tree pose. And we get into tree pose a slightly different way in gentle somatic yoga. So first of all, I want you to feel the lift from your pelvis and then grow roots from your right leg into the ground. Raise your left leg up to the front first. Allow it to turn naturally to the side and then place it wherever it goes. Continue to draw up through the pelvis. And then if you want to, you can grow your branches and breathe, but feel the strength in your pelvis. Breathe and smile. Beautiful. Let that leg go down, shake things out between the two legs. Now draw your pelvis back up as if you're lifting up that tissue from the tissue box. Allow the strength to go down through your left leg. Develop roots in your feet. Draw the right leg up first to the front. Then let it turn naturally to the side and place the foot wherever it wants to go. And then go ahead and grow your branches and breathe and smile. Feeling nice and grounded for a strong, supple pelvis. Go ahead and release that, shake it out, and gently let's make our way to any comfortable seated pose for our mudra practice. You may sit in a chair, you may sit on the ground, and in this mudra practice, we are going to do the gesture of the dwelling place for the second chakra, and the second chakra is all about pelvic health. So just take your right hand, slightly cupped, and rest it below the navel. And then your left hand, cup it and hold it facing upward and outward from your body as if you're serving something on a plate. And then if you feel comfortable to do so, go ahead and close your eyes, and I will guide you through this meditation. The second chakra, Svadhisthana, means one's own dwelling place, and it's located at the center of your pelvis. And this energy center is represented by a lotus with 6 orange petals arranged around a circle with a crescent moon. The circle symbolizes inherent wholeness, and the crescent moon represents the qualities of the water element, including femininity, receptivity, and fluidity. Svadhisthana mudra directs your breath, your awareness, and energy into the pelvis. supporting our connection to the center of self-nourishment. Your left hand is open to receiving healing energy, while the right hand channels this nourishment into your pelvic region. The gesture cultivates a massaging effect in the lower abdomen and pelvis, which supports the health of your reproductive and urinary systems. The mudra lengthens the exhale, instilling a sense of calm and serenity that helps to release stress and reduce anxiety. And it also awakens sensations of deep satisfaction and contentment. So if your eyes are not already closed, go ahead and close them. Coming home to yourself is what this mudra is all about. As you hold the Svadhisthana mudra, take several natural breaths to attune to all the feelings and the sensations evoked by the gesture. Notice how your right hand, held over the second chakra at the center of your pelvis, is instilling a sense of comfort and inner nourishment. And then sense how your left hand is naturally open to receive universal healing energy, channeling it into your Svadhisthana chakra, which is your inner dwelling place. Take several breaths to attune to the nourishing energy, which is cultivating a sensitivity that will allow you to absorb all your essential second chakra qualities. With your next inhale, attune to the inner dwelling place, opening to receive the quality of fluidity. As you exhale, a sense of fluidity flows out from your second chakra to nourish your entire being. Nourished by the quality of fluidity, you naturally develop the ability to flow with all of life's cycles and seasons more smoothly and easily. With your next inhaling breath, return to your inner home, and as you exhale, allow the quality of equanimity to naturally unfold. For your next few breaths, sense your equanimity deepening naturally, allowing you to rest in the calm depths of your being, no matter what is happening in your surroundings. With greater fluidity and equanimity, healthy relationships unfold naturally, allowing you to perceive that when you are at home within your own being, you're able to be with others in complete comfort and safety. With the next inhale, return to your inner dwelling place. And as you exhale, sense the integration of your second chakra qualities, which allows you to have a deep sense of self-nourishment to unfold naturally. Take several breaths to allow this self-nourishment to permeate your entire being, supporting you and caring for yourself and others lovingly at each step along your journey. As you nourish yourself more completely and live in greater harmony, you naturally find pleasure in simple things, savoring the beauty of each moment of joyful living. We will affirm your self-nourishment by repeating the following 3 times, aloud or silently. At home, within my being, I experience deep self-nourishment and healing. At home, within my being, I experience deep self-nourishment and healing. At home, within my being, I experience deep self-nourishment and healing. Release the gesture. Take a few natural breaths to integrate all the qualities of the second chakra in healing the pelvic region. And when you're ready, blinking your eyes open, returning slowly and gently, more attuned to your inner source of nourishment and healing. So gather any parts of this class that were particularly helpful to you. Draw your hands into the heart. Namaste.